My father drove a taxi cab in my town back in the late 90s. He had a number of paranormal encounters, but not one encounter stopped him from driving, because he didn't want to be home empty-handed. He would come home with something for breakfast and sometimes a story of a spooky encounter. The scariest story I've heard about his night journey remains to give me goosebumps whenever I hear it. He once took passengers from a funeral to a place they probably reside in another town nearby. On the way, my father felt something or someone on the passenger seat, but he recalled that only 2 people had gotten in and that they chose the back seat. That one thing beside him didn't disappear throughout the journey, so he was puzzled. He was thinking that maybe he didn't notice that there was another passenger with them. The doubt that it could also be a ghost made him not look at it straight, so it remained in his side glance. When they almost reached their destination, my father asked which way they were going to take. The passenger on the front seat pointed the direction, which he followed. For some reason, the 2 behind weren't talking at all and not even wondering how my father knew where they were going stop. And the mystery of that entity was finally known when the 2 got out of the cab while the door in the front seat didn't open. My father asked, "Wasn't there anyone with you?" There was a passenger beside me that told me with its hand your exact destination. So I stopped here. The 2 looked at each other frozen and said, "There are just 2 of us. And we just came from a wake." In 2017, my family moved into a new house that was built in the 1800s. Our first 8 months were fine, even though I felt really uneasy. My parents got me a little dog to help calm my nerves, which helped me. Until one night, I was bringing food to my room and she stood in front of the door wagging her tail waiting for me to put it down. When she was pulled under the bed and held there for a total of 10 minutes. Me being 8 was scared to help her, so I ran to get my dad. And he ran in with his gun and picked up the bed slightly. Whatever it was let my dog go and she ran to me immediately. I then glanced over and saw a black figure of a girl lying under my bed, but before anyone else could see, she disappeared. Nobody believed the things I saw until one night my little sister stopped breathing. Nobody knew. And she could have died, but a girl who looked just like me, my dad swears by the Bible he saw her, woke my dad up, and before he got out of bed she was gone. My dad was of course mad at me, but I was confused because it wasn't me. My dad believed now what I was seeing. All the stuff I was seeing stopped until I hit 15. I started seeing people at the end of my bed at night. I saw a little girl one night laughing and a little boy the other doing the same thing. Then I saw a dead man facing my closet and another girl facing my closet, all on different nights. I try speaking to them, but they just look at me and smile. I was up in San Jose, California for a hockey game with my wife, my son, and a friend of my son. We decided to drive to San Francisco and tour Alcatraz. Upon arriving to the prison, we started to follow one of the park rangers and listen to his history on the island, but it was taking far too long. So we decided to break off and tour ourselves. We were walking up on the morgue. To the left is a small structure with 2 doors and a window in each door. As I look over, I see a person looking directly at me through the window. I turn to my family and say, "Did you see that guy looking at us through the window?" And I look back and he was gone. I walked to the doors and looked in the window to complete darkness, and the doors were chained shut with a rust lock. The hair on my neck was standing. He was pointy in features, grayish in color with receding combed back hair. I did not see his body, but I would say he was approximate 5'6" in height, judging from the doors and him looking over the window. This is something I will never forget. Since I turned 40, this is my second encounter. The first one I did not see, but I believe I stayed in a haunted hotel room in Venice, Italy. I will write about that also. 40 years ago, my then boyfriend and I were renting a house in a little town called Nashville, here in Michigan. Anyway, I had heard that it could be haunted, but I needed a place to live as I had 3 little ones. There were occurrences water would turn on, my keys would go missing. I would say put them back and turn around, and they would be there. One day my children were playing in their room and came running out telling me that they had played jump rope with the doctor. I kinda just listened, but I don't remember doing anything about it. Anyway, a little while later I had a baby girl and we had gone to Florida and went to Disney World and came back with a Mylar balloon. Me and my honey were standing in the kitchen and all of a sudden this Mylar balloon starts to move. It went past us over the door jamb and into my kiddo's room. We both had our hair standing up on edge. I followed it and it had gone into a back closet. There were quite a few things in there. Things that I am certain that a doctor would feel might hurt babies. He was protecting us. I moved from there and years later. They remodeled the house and it left. Many years ago, I was awoken by my brother returning home in the early hours of the morning. I could hear my mom and brother talking and making a hot drink in the kitchen. Thinking nothing of it, I rolled over to try to get back to sleep. I heard a loud thump in the garage, which was only a couple of meters from my bedroom at the back of the house. Intrigued to know what had caused it, I hot up and pulling the curtain back saw my stepfather in the garage over by the stacked wood. It was light enough to make out the color of the clothes he was wearing, the car and neighbor's fence, etc. Wondering why my stepfather was out in the garage at 1 a.m, I went into the kitchen to ask my mom what he was doing out there. At first my mother didn't answer me, so I asked again when there was a lull in the conversation between my mother and brother. She looked at me oddly and said that my stepfather was still in bed. The door leading out to the garage was in the kitchen and it was locked. Thinking that my stepfather must have gone the long way to the garage and used the front door only for that to be locked. As a last resort, I went to the master bedroom only to find my stepfather in bed. He denied being in the garage. Puzzled as I knew, I had heard him knock wood over and was wrist-tacking it when I looked out. I went back to my room and pulled the curtain back only to see pitch blackness and couldn't make out much, let alone the color of anything. To this day, the only rational explanation I've come in with was he was astral protecting. And I saw him, otherwise I can't explain what happened. But the one thing I do know for sure, I was not dreaming and was very much awake.